muscular dystrophy warrior, just like the last video. In every video, a moment of silence for all the fallen warriors who have sadly lost the battle to muscular dystrophy. Sending prayers to all those families who have lost someone with muscular dystrophy. Well, it's been quite a while, guys, since my last, post, my last upload. Been kind of busy trying to figure out what topic should I discuss, and stuff. I was gonna be focused on Mother's Day stuff related to mothers, but I couldn't really find any topic, article topic related to that until I found this article, which is titled, let me see, guys, before, What If I Outlive My Parents? Well, before I get any further, I want to wish all the mothers, hopefully, I hope every mother, special need mothers, and every mother in general, but especially all the special needs mom had a great Mother's Day, which was last week. So I'm a little late, but hope you guys had a great Mother's Day. So going back to the article, well, most of you guys, in the DMD community, sometimes we only have our mom or both parents. In my case, I have both parents, but a lot of people in the DMD community have the mom, being their main caregiver. And it's like, what happens when she's gone? I know you probably have family siblings, but will they be able to take care of you just like your mom did? I know they can put someone else to take care of you. Or sometimes if you have both parents, like in my case, what if mom and dad or some for some reason they're gone, you have family, but they're not really involved in all, what goes behind the scenes in your caregiving, and I feel like a lot of moms and parents and moms, either one depends what your situation is, think about what is my son, what is my daughter gonna do when they have a special need adult kid as well. 'Cause we can't predict, life is so precious and short, we can't know if, who's gonna take care of me. I feel like every special needs mom, special need parents think about this every day. What are they gonna do, especially those that are nonverbal, but it doesn't matter what disability, parents worry like what are they gonna do and this and that. So that's why I thought this article was a great topic, very, not easy topic to discuss, I know, but I thought it would be bringing awareness, especially for the outside world, that those that are not really involved in the DMD community or don't know a lot about the DMD community, they see us and they be like, you're fine, or they don't really think about it, because if they're not in that scenario, and stuff. So that's why I decided to talk about that topic, read that article. And the person who wrote this article, his name is, from what I see here, is DJ Kimball. He was 43 years old with muscular dystrophy. I did a little research. He sadly passed away, I think, last year. From what I see, I saw an article where they're talking about his life and stuff, because he sadly passed away. So I'm gonna do another, moment of silence for this individual living with, who was MD warrior for 43 years. I don't know if he was 43 when he passed, but I'll still do a moment of silence once again for this individual. All right, guys, I'll show you guys the article so you guys can keep along. All right, I think that's it. And we good to go. I'm gonna put my screen away like that so you guys can focus more on the article. See, it says, what if I outlive my parents? Let's see what is this. Outliving our parents is how life usually happens for the vast majority of people. which sometimes it's true, sometimes it's not, you know, because sometimes your parents outlive, the son or daughter for whatever reason, but I don't know if it's a little bit true, but the minority, you know, it's always hard to continue life, living a life without your parents. I feel like not just parents, friends, family, it's not easy. Like they say, life must go on, but it's not that simple. That term makes it sound so easy, when you lose someone, parents, sister, brothers, siblings in general, grandparents, anybody, it's hard living life without your parent or whoever. So that term, life must go on, it's not that simple. But for those of us with Duchenne, it's even a bit scarier. Just like myself, who lives with Duchenne or any disability, like I discussed earlier before we got into this. All right, first part says finding the courage to plan. Let's see what it says. As I was growing up, it said, this is what DJ Kimball wrote in this article. As I was growing up, learning about Duchenne, I came to understand that my life wouldn't be like my brother, my sister, or anyone else I knew. This kind of reflects how I was. I knew it wasn't going to be the same. I don't have brother, I don't have sisters, but I have cousins and all that family, that I know it wouldn't be the same, like he's saying. Nor I would be able to actually look forward to reaching my dreams in life because I just wasn't going to live long enough to see that happen. Well, I think that was the thought, like for many in the DMD community for several generations, several years, this is gonna obviously destroy me. I've discovered as an adult that the change is by no means predictable in any aspect, especially life expectancy. I learned that as well. That doesn't matter if what doctor says. I mean, you still have to listen to your doctor. I'm not saying don't, but sometimes they obviously when you talk about muscular dystrophy, we look into life expectancy. That's what comes into our mind. But seeing how people in the DMD community, somewhere like 40, they made it to 40, 50, even older, 20. So it's like you never know. The average life expectancy of those living with Duchenne is now 10 years more than it was just a decade ago. See, for many years, it was like life expectancy is going to be short, but look at this. We went from having it very short to having it now 10 years more than we did a decade ago, which we have come a long way, but we still have a lot of things to do. Many of us are living well into our 30s. In his case, DJ Kimball, even into our 40s, he says. I'm 26, gonna be 27 in August. And then he says, how does one with Duchenne find the courage to even plan for the day they no longer have their parents to continue being there for them? I mean, I feel like, how am I supposed to know that? I feel like nobody knows that. I feel like when, how will be me, will be them, I don't think you really plan that. You don't know because you don't really know when. He says here in the next part, my mom, my caregiver, my best friend, my voice, he says. He says at 41, it something scares me to even be away from my mom more than a few hours. The only times that I've been away from her for more than a few hours, it's when I was hospitalized. Even then, most of the time she stayed with me. My mom is my everything in this world. Not only is she my mom, but she is also my primary caregiver. He says my best friend, even my voice. My mom is the only one that truly knows how to care for me. I feel like that's the case for a lot. And he said, yes, my dad has an idea what caregiving for me entails, but he still doesn't really know because he never really took the time to get to know everything that my mom does for me on a daily basis, especially when I was growing up. Feel like it's the case for a lot of us, you know. You have both parents, but only one knows you more than the other, to be honest. Now he says, now that I'm an adult, it's hard for him to really grasp all that goes into my care and understand why we do certain things in a certain way. Caring for those of us with Duchenne isn't about ensuring we are safe and healthy. Truly caregiving us, truly caring for us more of an intimate experience to know find what makes us happy, be with us though all be with us through all our struggles. It's shorter for us to cry on to find comfort, but mostly it just means always being there no matter what. Words are great, but actions speak much more louder. This is what makes my relationship with my mom, he says. More than just being my mom, this special connection that we have is something that most would never truly understand, and no longer having that is what scares me the most about the possibility of outliving my parents, especially my mom. It could happen in a heartbeat. What happens to me if I outlive my parents? I feel like that's the million-dollar question for a lot of people with a disability. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's disabilities where the person can be independent on their own, but sadly, DMD doesn't give us that privilege, I'll say. That is a very good question. And one I find myself reporting quite often. I do the same thing. This question really came to a forefront for me when both my parents were in a car accident about a year and a half ago. He says, thankfully they were okay, but the realization how quickly everything could just change in a heartbeat has caused me to really wonder what my life would look like for no longer my parent. If I no longer had my parents, which is true, I feel like things can change in an instant. Outliving my parents, especially my mom, or at least outliving her ability to continue being my primary caregiver, is something that's always on my mind, especially with her getting older and not finding it easy as it was. I feel like that's something every special need mom faces most of the time. Now with COVID world that we find ourselves in today, it could become a reality at any time. So this article is during the COVID years, it seems like, but it's still it's still a topic that with or without COVID, it's always a topic that's in every mom, dad, individual with a disability. Option one, family. I know that I do have a great family and that does allow me to some peace knowing I will always have them. My brother and sister will do everything in their power to make sure that I was taken care of, but I wouldn't want them to have to stop living their lives to care for me either, especially with them having their own families. I mean, a lot of individuals have brother and sister that can take good care of them. But in my case, I don't have any brothers or sister. But that's not the case for me. But for some, this is the case. But I 100% agree with what he's saying, you know, because you don't want them to feel like, oh, they won't be able to live their life like they were living it, their routine. Every family has their own routine. Take the kids here, do this, do that, and then add in another, you know what I mean? Like having your brother or sister who has a disability, it's a huge responsibility. You don't want them to feel like, oh, they, my parents give me this full responsibility of this and that. This is quite the dilemma for me to reconsider because at some point that will most likely be a situation I find myself in. I feel like for those that have brother and sister, this will be something. you will face. And then he says, I hope that it's something I will need to do anytime soon, but I know that I should also have that contingency plan in place for when that times eventually comes. It's just a very scary thing for me to even discuss with my family because not having my mom is something I can't even imagine, he says. I feel like that's the case for a lot of us. Option two, underpaid caregiver. He says, I know it's necessary good thing that I only rely on my mom, but for us, that's the reality we have lived for my entire life. He said, I live in a small town, and there really is no other option for of care for me besides my parents. He said, there are programs available to help out finding qualified people to care for me. It's almost impossible. I did find someone, he says. The pay is not exactly up for par for the level of care required. He says the pay is absolutely the biggest hurdle by far that we have in finding the quality care we truly need. So it's not that easy finding someone to take care of you, like you guys can see though, for those that don't really know what happens behind the scene. Now we're going option three, overhauling government programs. It would be so much simpler if there were national standards in place regarding care. If there were national programs providing this care for those of us with Duchenne instead of having different standards and programs for every state, the funding for this care is entirely inadequate. It needs to be updated to fit the realities of the real world and must be adapted to fit the individual needs of each person. One size fits all is not practical in the world of disabilities today. All politicians believe that if the funding provided to an individual is customized to fit their specific needs, it will cost more. In reality, if you get the specific care you need, you tend to be much healthier, which is the long run actually saves the government money, he says. I don't know about this, but he has a point probably, you know. Then we go into the last part, but he says the answer. What is the solution? So what happened if to me if I outlive my parents? I do wish I had the answer, and I'm sure many others in the same community wish that they had the answer as well. I mean, I wish I had the answer for the future generations of muscular dystrophy guys, but sadly, I don't have that answer. Like he says. On one hand, it's a good thing that we are now living long enough to even have this conversation, which, like I said, we have come a long way, which is great. Still a lot of things to work on, but we have come a long way. On the other hand, it doesn't make it any easier for us to find the answer to the question what happened to us when we leave our parents. It's it has its pros and cons when we talk about this topic. I know that the chain of organization are working very hard to continue updating the support in the area of our lives, but we definitely need so much more assistance in navigating the world of care. 100% agree. He said, I could continue speaking about this for hours, but I will leave it here for now. This topic needs much more attention. Hopefully, with us discussing it today, it will lead to the real change that our care systems so definitely need. He says, please feel free to continue this conversation in the comments. I look forward to them all. And then he says, thank you. I would like to thank you all for taking the time to read my article today, he says, and I hope that your journey with the chain continues to be filled with hope and derided by adversity. He also says, I want to thank family, friends, and Duchenne for allowing me the opportunity to continue sharing my lifelong journey of Duchenne with everyone. And we're done with the article, you guys. And I know it's a lot to think about, guys, especially all the special needs. Well, not just people in the DMD community. I feel like this topic is for everyone that has a son, daughter, nephew, grandson, granddaughter, anybody, what are they gonna do if, you know, something happens to me? Who's gonna take care of them? There's a million things that goes into the mom or dad caregiver, will go to your mind, what are they gonna do? What is this? What are they gonna do this and that? What's gonna happen to them? I know it's not an easy topic, you guys, but I thought it was a great topic, especially, since it was last weekend was Mother's Day. And I feel every mother with special needs kids has asked this question themselves. What if my son or daughter outlives us? Or if you're the individual with muscular dystrophy, SMA, ALS, any disability, you probably have thought, what if I outlive my parents? What am I gonna do? Which I feel this is a topic it's not discussed enough and stuff. But I think this will be a great topic to discuss on the podcast that I do. The spin-off of Muscular Dystrophy Warrior, Filter with Reyes and Victor. I think this could be a good topic for the next episodes, but let me see how we, do this and stuff. But yeah, like he said, we need to continue this conversation, because like we can be here hours, like so many hours talking about this, giving different opinions, this and that. But the truth is, you guys, something has to be changed. Like they say they should have like a program, or housing. You know how they have those places where elder people live, I forgot what it's called. Or homes, where they have, they should have somewhere like a community where they can live. People with muscular dystrophy can live, one of those close communities, and stuff. They have older people. They should have one for muscular dystrophy. Everybody that lives there has muscular dystrophy, and it's full of caregivers, caring for them 24/7, 365 days a year for everyone. You know, that would be nursing homes. That's what I was looking for. A nursing home for people with muscular dystrophy. Not a nursing home, I'll say like a community. Somebody buys a place in builds house, wheelchair accessible houses, community where people with muscular dystrophy can live, but they will be getting the 24/7 care, and plus they'll be able to socialize with all the individual with muscular dystrophy living there. Or we can have mix of disabilities, and stuff. We can have a mix of disabilities and stuff. So yeah, we can have a mix of that. Hopefully we can do something like that. Would be nice. But like always, guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification button. It felt great to be back to uploading another video for you guys. And like always, MD Warrior out until next time.